Hello and welcome to my channel. Today we'll be doing a little review of Gardner Ben's most fragrant Austin roses, and you can see the video on the screen right here behind me. So let's check what Gardner Ben has to say about Austin roses. I think he has a lot of interesting things to say because he usually has. So let's check it out.
Hi, and welcome along. I'm the Gardener Ben with probably my most anticipated best of collection of the year. This one is always incredibly stressful to bring you and very eagerly anticipated by you all. And
Oh yes, I can imagine it's very stressful because he has to have the blooms in bloom at the same time, and he has to have everything looking just right, and he even have the ladder thing with all the glass vases and everything. It's like so much quality is going into making Gardner Ben's videos that I I can just imagine he stresses a lot, and you'll see that with a lot of creative people. Like my mom is a gardener, and a flower decorist, and a flower decorator. Me myself as a sommelier, I grow about 400 roses too. But my mom is kind of like that. She wants everything to look right. It has to be incredibly detailed, and I'm so happy the world has creative people like that who really care about what they do. And I think Gardner Ben is absolutely one of them. But let's check out what he's about to
over
say.
the winter, I asked you what content you wanted to see me creating, and you asked for more information with regards to fragrance and strength of fragrance. So, over the last 7 or 8 months, I've actually created a 10-star fragrance rating for all of the roses that I've reviewed so far. I've gone back through the media created over the last.
It's about the same with me. I also started out with in wine, we often tend to do 5-star ratings, but I often figured out that the 10-star rating is just simply better because when you're doing like 400 or 500 roses, sometimes it's just like zero point 0.5 difference between two roses. And if you're working on a 5-point scale, a 5-star scale, it simply gets too narrow. You can't really differentiate it much. So I also went for the 10 fragrance scale rating, like Gardner Ben here, and I totally get why he did that.
Few years and assessed each individual rose and the roses I continue to review on a yearly basis, and each one has been awarded a fragrance rating from 1 to 10. The roses I'm going to talk to you about today all score over an 8 on the fragrance rating. Not everybody is here because unfortunately not everybody is in flower, but please do check the caption below for the full listing of roses.
Yeah, that's always the problem. Like usually it's in July where you have everything in flower, but then you have 1 or 2 roses missing and you can't compare. And yeah, even with 400 roses like me, you just can't be lucky always to have it all in bloom. It's really so. I'm amazed he can even do that at the same time. His roses must be at least 4 or 5 years old, each of them, for him to like reliably do that.
Including their full fragrance rating out of 10 and their Latin names for you to be able to track them down if you find a rose that really captivates your attention that's no longer stocked by David Austin in this country.
Få alt til påsken i Spar. For eksempel.
And here we had a commercial, our first commercial. Well, I guess you can't help it.
Please do bear in mind that this is just a snapshot of all of these
YouTube
beautiful roses
all.
next to me. Each individual plant has its own personal rose review, so please head over to my story highlights on Instagram or over to my YouTube channel and watch the personal review. And each particular rose will be assessed as I review
he
it
does a lot
about
of
the depth
Instagram
and
videos
strength of
also.
fragrance, and more importantly, the notes and actual smell itself. So let's get into this. So there's several roses that I will list at the end that unfortunately up to date aren't in flower, but 10 absolutely crackers next to me. So let's get into these and I'll start talking you through it. One that will not surprise you, that many of you are really keen on, is Boscobel, a lovely shrub rose.
Oh yeah, Boscobel is, if you know my ranking videos, you know Boscobel is one of my absolute favorites, and it is this large shrub, and the blooms are wonderfully fragrant, this tropical scent, and I simply love the color change on it. It has a really beautiful color change, and I love everything about this rose. It's one of my most favorite Austin roses, in my top 5 for sure. And it's one I often gift people to. But yeah, let's continue.
Reaching 3 feet by 3 feet, producing these large, very, very heavily cupped, bowl-shaped flowers in 2 very distinctive flushes. The fragrance on this one is really, really very good, and that's why it is here in my best of collection. Next to it,
Yeah, he's correct. It's a really good fragrance, but I think what makes it really special is it's really tropical. It has an almondy kind of some really good qualities to it. It's very different in the scent from the other Austin roses, and I think especially like I didn't give it a full 8. I gave it a 7.5, but I can definitely see why you want to give it higher than that. But for me, like along with the Tanta Rose Tropicana, it just has such an unique scent, and that's why I absolutely love it to have it in my scented collection. That, and as I said before, the color play of it.
it needs no introduction, although this particular flower is not the best of the actual type of flower that it will produce. This one is Munstead Wood. No other rose produces flowers quite of this fragrance and this color all at once.
I agree with that. Like, it's so rare in Austin's collection. You get good reds, and he doesn't produce a lot of reds, and I think it's such a shame. But Austin tend to do a lot of pink roses. He has so many pink roses, and in the last few years there's also been a lot of yellow roses. So pink and yellow, especially pink roses. And I think Austin roses really need to get back and produce some of the red roses, because Munstead Wood is really hard to get right now. You can barely get it anymore. It's really fragrant, a really good fragrant rose, and it has a really good maroon color. Sometimes in between red and really dark red. Wonderful fragrant. But yeah, Austin needs to produce some more red roses for sure.
Obviously, as you're aware, she is viciously spiky, and quite often you will find the strongest fragrances coming from the roses with the most thorns. So there's always...
Oh, that is really true, and often you'll also find that some roses are so evil that they also have spikes underneath the leaves. So you're like thinking, oh, I'm not touching the stem, I'm touching the leaf, and then you're getting like a fish hook into your finger. But that is the thing about loving roses. You get used to having a pinch-it, and you get used to just taking thorns out of your finger. It's part of the wonder and the joy of having a lot of roses. You get used to using a magnifying glass and picking out thorns. So be warned.
A flip side to the beauty and the fragrance, and quite often it's a little bit of a sting in its tail. But making it onto my best for fragrance rating, I believe with a 9 or a 9.5 star fragrance review, is the stunning Munstead Wood. Now, unfortunately,
I would give it about a 9, but I can see why he wants to go higher. Maybe when they get older they're a lot more, but for me it's a 9.
Discontinued here in the UK and put to retirement, it is still available worldwide, so please do check the Latin name if it's a rose that you want to get hold of into your collection. A firm favourite here, but not very well known. This absolute stunner, once again retired here in the UK, is Benjamin Britten. I absolutely...
Oh yeah, I've been on the hunt for Benjamin Britten for quite some while, and I also ordered it, but then it went out of stock before I got the order. So I've heard it's really fragrant, like an 8 out of 10. So I'm going to trust Gardner Ben on this one. I really want to get a hold of this. It kind of reminds me of the Cordes rose. What is it called? Fruity Parfumer in shape. But yeah, I really want to get a hold of Benjamin Britten.
Love this rose. The colour of it is absolutely extraordinary. A really, really heavy coral salmon colour with some beautiful antique edging. This particular plant really does age well, and much like Princess Anne and the new Penelope Lively added to the collections this year, as this bloom
Yeah, if you followed my channel, you know Princess Anne is absolutely one of my favorites because of how it ages. Absolutely gorgeous rose, and I think it was on maybe it was on Gardner Ben's channel. It was one of the first times I saw Princess Anne. But Princess Anne is not a good rose for fragrance, but it's a wonderful rose to have in your garden for the color play and the health and uh, rebloomability, the floriferous. But yeah, I have three of her, and Princess Anne you should definitely get to.
Fades, it takes on this wonderful grey antique look as the petals fall. It is incredibly beautiful. The fragrance, very, very different on Benjamin Britten. It's very warm and very spicy. It's very masculine in its tones, and it really is incredibly fragrant. And it must have heritage.
Yeah, I'm already regretting I didn't get that rose, but what can you do? It's sometimes the luck of the draw when you order something in advance, a few months in advance, and then the last minute you get a mail that it can't be delivered. But that's life, and we learn to play by it.
Also with the likes of Gabriel Oak with those lovely purple stems behind, but this one is Benjamin Britten. Next to it, making it onto my best for fragrance rating this year and of course in previous years, is the absolutely stunning Jubilee Celebration. As I keep saying, producing some of the largest blooms within the...
Yeah, Jubilee Celebration is a really good rose. You just shouldn't confuse it with another. There's one that's really similar in name. I can't remember if it's Celebration or if it's Jubilee that's similar. But Austin makes a rose that's really similar in name, and that one is not nearly as fragrant. It blooms a lot, but the canes also break a lot on it. Yeah, and it's not as rain resistant. So be careful you get the right one of them.
The David Austin collections. These ones are pretty small, but sometimes as large as your hand. The kind of rose you want to pick and bring into the house and really make a show of, maybe on the dining room table or on your nightside bedstand. But this one is Jubilee Celebration.
Jeg har endelig fundet ud af, hvad den virkelige forskel er på en massagekniv og en almindelig kniv. Vi har alle set de prangende...
Let's skip it now.
Trying my best not to miss any out on this particular one like I did in another one. This is my current ranked #1 most recommended David Austin rose. This particular plant, unfortunately, is not having a good time of it this year. A wasp nest has moved in right next to this particular plant, and I braved getting this particular flower cut today for you. This one is the really stunning Silas Marner.
Oh yeah, it's Silas Marner. Silas Marner is such a wonderful rose. I have 3 of it in my garden, planted together in a group. Always in bloom, really healthy, and in my opinion the scent is about an 8, but it's also quite resistant to rain because it's so shallow cupped, so it holds up really well to the rain compared to some of the more bigger, more heavily cups here. So yeah, Silas Marner is just such a workhorse in my opinion. It's one of the English roses that has just enough of everything, really.
Once again, not the best quality bloom. This particular plant will produce blooms much, much larger than this, and it has done it in...
That's true, but Silas Marner in general doesn't make the most impressive blooms. It makes a lot of them, but it doesn't make the most impressive blooms. What makes it special, though, is the bottom center and also the twirls you sometimes get in the flower. So it's a really good flower though.
In the garden, but unfortunately I wasn't brave enough to cut one. This particular one, this is Silas Marner. Next to it, one of 2 roses from the same heritage. This particular stunner is the Country Parson. I like this rose so much, along...
I have not been as lucky with the Country Parson. It grows very slow for me and is more selective when it gives fragrance. Now it gives between a 7.5 to an 8 when it gives fragrance, but I really find that Harlow Car is the better choice for me. Like the more pink sibling of it is has been more healthy to me and also more reliably fragrant. But yeah, that's just me.
With its sister rose, Harlow Car, I have several of these dotted about the garden. The colour ranging everywhere from a very strong sherbet lemon all the way through to a very, very heavy ivory cream. The fragrance on this one really, really intense and very, very...
Yeah, it's a good flower. The older the flower gets, the more white it tends to fade to white, be more yellow as it starts blooming. But it's a good rose. Really a lot of thorns, and it's these small thorns that you really have to be careful of. But besides that,
powerful, carries beautifully on the wind if you do happen to get a nice warm and windy summer's day. As I said in other collections, this particular rose, along with its sister rose, Harlow Car, does actually perform really very well in a salt or windy position. So if you are on exposed ground, or if you're gardening on a terrace or maybe on a balcony on an exposed spot, Country Parson is a rose that's going to be giving you lots and lots of fruit.
Yeah, I totally agree on that. You can make small hedges with them, and you can use them in a lot of spots you can't use other roses. The only problem I have with Harlow Car is if you place it too close to a house, you can sometimes get powdery mildew on it. So you have to make sure that there are some air circulation going on, preferably.
Fragrance and a huge amount of value for money. However, like its sister rose, Harlow Car, it is incredibly spiky, and care must be taken if you have children or pets. Next to it, the absolute...
Yeah, what he says there is very true, because it's, I sometimes said it's like barbed wire. You can nearly use that rose as barbed wire because it's so spiky. You can barely see the stems because of the constant spikes going on. It's one of the roses where you're like, oh, that's totally like barbed wire. You could use it for that. So yeah,
absolutely stunning addition from last year, Bring Me Sunshine. This rose is going to rate really heavily in my new top 20 most recommended David Austin roses. It's an absolute cracker, and I can smell this rose even from here.
Yeah, this is actually where I'm starting to disagree with Gardner Ben, because I have had 3 Bring Me Sunshine, and even though they have been very healthy and really good for blooming and all that, I actually haven't gotten that strong a scent on them. The scent I've been getting is more like a 6 or a 7, and yeah, it's the typical yellow scent with some more tea notes in it. So I'm not sure if that's just me being unlucky, but I don't really agree on Bring Me Sunshine on fragrance, except it's really healthy and a good rose for blooming.
Here, with everybody behind me, I can still pick up on its really lovely sandalwoody, clovey tones. A very, very...
Oh yeah, that's what he's saying there is really true. It has a lot of sandalwood and a lot of clove fragrance to it. I just don't believe it's... I think sometimes it also depends on, are people smokers? What fragrances do they like? Maybe Gardner Ben likes these more clove and sandalwood fragrances, where I tend to like the more fruity, the more citrusy, the more old garden fragrances. So maybe that is why we disagree about it. Because I have also bought some roses where people are like, oh, it's a 10 out of 10 on scent, and then you get it home and you get your nose into it, and it's a really strong tobacco nearly. So there are some roses that are like that, where me at least is very disappointed, because it's kind of like you're sticking your nose into an ashtray, and that's where, is it a scent or is it a smell, comes into it. For me, Bring Me Sunshine, it's not the most pleasant scent for me, and that's why I have to rank it lower for me. I'm not as impressed by it as Gardner Ben is.
Very lovely rose, producing huge flowers in absolutely masses and abundance. This particular rose, I'm actually making it onto several of my new best of collections, including one filmed just a day or 2 ago, the best for making a huge statement on a pillar or post or obelisk. This particular rose needs a little bit of support and is going to reach in excess of 6 feet, but it's a really lovely problem to have. It will be absolutely dripping with flowers.
I agree, it's good for flowering, and it's also quite healthy. Only thing I disagree with Gardner Ben on is, again, the scent. I think if one wants a more yellow rose, I think something like a Poet's Wife is the better one for scent. While Bring Me Sunshine is, as he says here, a better showpiece because it's more in constant bloom, and you also have some more color variation going on in it, just like you have with James L. Austin and Princess Anne and Bosco Bell. Like if you get a lot of these together, you can create some interesting color effects. But I don't agree with. I like Poet's Wife more on scent if it's a yellow.
And the kind of thing that you really want to make a spectacle of. So that one is Bring Me Sunshine. Down onto the lower level, this hugely powerful colour right next to me. Once again, will need no introduction with David Austin fans. This one is the stunning Poet's Wife.
Yeah,
really rich golden yellow flowers.
It is, to this day, it's still my most favorite yellow for scent. It's a wonderful yellow rose, and I really like it, especially the scent on it. The scent for me is like a clear 9. Wonderful scent.
Producing a huge amount of fragrance. This is a large, sprawling and very informal shrub which does need a little bit of support. I allow mine to simply ramble about the border, poking her head out here.
Yeah, he's really correct about this. Austin also called it Auswhirl because it whirls around itself. So it can be a bit hard to get into shape. And I think that's the primary disadvantage with this rose is it tends to be a bit more unruly in the shape. So I think front of a border or in a pot and try to control it is the best way you can go. But the fragrance and the beauty of the bloom more than makes up for it. It's a wonderful bloom.
Here, poking your head out there. It does mean during the winter I need to be a bit careful when it comes to pruning because the stems are all over the place, but you do have to be a bit careful in those incidents. But this is the Poet's Wife. You can see the beautiful depth of colour with this particular one. Again, very capable of producing enormous flowers, 4.5 to 5 inches across with an unbelievable fragrance. Again, the kind of rose that you want to cut and bring into the house. Next to it, appearing on several best of collections, and the sister rose of the country parson is Harlow Carr. This particular rose ranks really heavily within my top 20.
Yeah, this is, as I said before, a lot of thorns, but really fragrant and really healthy, good rose. Just like I said, avoid placing it a spot where you think it can get powdery mildew because it is a bit prone to that. Especially on new shoots, but besides that, if you place it somewhere where it gets more wind and isn't as moist, maybe more southland placed, it's really healthy, and the scent is about an 8 out of 10. Really good scent on this one.
And appears in several of my best of collections, including best for growing in a pot and a new collection coming up over the next couple of weeks. But Harlow Carr is an absolute cracker of a rose, but once again, much like the country parson, you do need to be careful of its thorns. It is incredibly prickly. This one and the country parson don't like.
Yeah, the worst thing about its thorns are like I said before, they're really small and very see-through, so sometimes they're hard. It is hard getting out of your finger because they're not that easy to remove.
The wet weather very much, and you can often find that blooms are produced in such large volumes that if they do get wet, the entire bush looks like it's been sort of dunked in mud. Everything's sort of rotting onto the plant. You just need to get in there and cut it all off to actually salvage the buds below. But quite often they do get very heavily water laden, and then unfortunately they start to go mouldy and get covered in mildew. But
yeah, that's exactly what I was saying before. Like this plant, if it gets too waterlogged, it suffers some powdery mildew. So you have to place it somewhere with a lot of wind. And I'm glad Gardner Ben has also observed that because it's something I have observed with it for sure. But I wouldn't be without it. It is one of my favorite Austin roses.
It's a really cracking rose with a fantastic fragrance. Next to it, everybody's favourite rose, Gertrude Jekyll. This really strong, very, very heavy sugar pink plant. I went out and picked another.
Yeah, I like everything about Gertrude Jekyll. My mom also has one in her garden. But the only thing I don't like is after its first flowering is over, it tends to get a lot of black spots. So and a lot of the older Austins have this problem. So, but it's just wonderful for scent. It's really between an 8 and 8.5 for me. This really old historic scent that comes very close to Comte de Chambord, because Comte de Chambord is in its parentage. So I like everything about it except the black spot. And you can also grow it as a bush if you remember to cut the right canes.
Flower, a much better particular bloom on Gertrude Jekyll, making it of course onto my best for fragrance collection, rating obviously well over a fragrance rating of an 8. Special notes have to be made for the people or the roses that couldn't be cut and brought to you today. So missing from this particular collection, rating at a 10 star and above on the fragrance rating for myself, is the Generous Gardener, Constance Spry.
Generous Gardener and Constance Spry are also really good roses. I believe Constance Spry is the one that only blooms once, so be aware of that. But besides that,
which is one of the first additions from David Austin Roses. That is a once flowering climbing rose, so it's not going to be flowering at this time of year. Young Lucidius, also out of flower at the moment.
Young Lucidius is actually a really good rose for me. It has a quite decent scent, 8+ for sure, so I actually agree with him here. It's also good to place next to Halocar, but Gabriel Oak, but Gabriel Oak is not as scented as Young Lucidius.
Penelope Lively, the new addition from David Austin Roses for 2023, which will be available throughout Europe and America over the next 18 to 24 months. And of course, the Lady Emma Hamilton. Currently,
Penelope Lively I haven't tried yet, but Lady Emma Hamilton is one of my absolute favorite Austin Roses. It's the coloration, the scent, the small bloom, shrub rose it forms. It's a wonderful rose. I have it in a pot and I made cutlings of it. Only problem about it is it has become kind of a collector's item now. It's very hard to find. You can get something like Lady of Charlotte, but she gets a lot bigger. She doesn't have the fragrance, so you're really stuck trying to find Lady Emma Hamilton. And if you get her, I would say do it like me and create some more for her, because she's always in demand. A really good rose.
Taking a small break between first and second flushes, but this is my best for fragrance range. These are 10, well actually there's more like 15 or 16 of the best for fragrance ratings roses, all ranking above an 8 star on the fragrance rating. Please do take the time to watch each individual personal rose review that you can find either in my story highlights on Instagram.
I actually think Gardner Ben makes a lot of good Austin reviews. Like, if you want to watch English roses and English roses as your main focus, Gardner Ben is definitely the guy to go to. He always gets the ratings, I would say, really correct. It's very rarely I meet mistakes with him within the English roses. Where I sometimes think he can do a bit of mistakes is when he journeys out from English roses. Sometimes I've noticed that he's maybe a bit unfair on the Harkness roses, even though they're also English roses. Something like Chandler's Beauty, I believe he ranked, was it a 6 or something like that, a 6.5? But I believe Chandler's Beauty deserves to rank much higher. So as long as it's Austin roses and English roses, I think Gardner Ben has the most wonderful channel, and he gets them right and he ranks them right. But I think sometimes he can be a bit hard on roses from outside the Austin family. So just be aware of that. But I think it's sometimes also like some people like tea hybrids with the pointy shape, and all like these old historic blooms with a round cup shape. I actually like both, but as I said before, if you like English roses, Gardner Ben is definitely a guy. He's really good at making reviews about English roses.
or over on my YouTube channel for more information on each individual rose. Don't forget to save this video for later, and of course you can share pictures of your rose to be featured on Instagram.
Yeah, that's kind of it for this reaction video. I think Gardner Ben is a wonderful rosarian when it comes to English roses and rating English roses. And you should definitely follow his channel for more English rose reviews. And he really does have a large collection of English roses, and he makes some wonderful tips and tricks about English roses. And you can learn a ton about English roses from him. So I really think you should go and check out his channel and give him a subscribe if you haven't already. So this was this for this video, and I'll be seeing you guys later, and be doing some more videos for you and some more review videos. So thank you for now, and take care.